Welcome into this first carrier update presented by Powerfleet. I'm Tony Mulvey, joined by Thomas Wasson. Thomas, we're starting out with our NTIL, and we're in this interesting state. Everyone's talked about we're not headed back to 2019 levels, but if you look, we're right around 17% above those levels, but we're 25% below where we were a year ago.
I think that's a great question. Getting to fill in for Donnie today is always exciting. It's like calling in the closer right now, It's Friday after all. So not throwing you some maps like we normally do, but like you said, a lot of people are asking how low can we go? And so right now, I think these maps are really useful, like you said, because you can see the discrepancy between 2021, as well as the fact that we are rapidly approaching data from not only 2020, but 2019. So when we're looking at this line haul only on the National Truckload Index, line haul is important because we're breaking out the fuel. So we're getting a really, really good idea of just how far this stuff is falling. And so, when you're looking at where we are at for the year and where we would like to go, it's a really interesting thing because, if we were talking right now 1 year prior, we're saying, hey, look, it's still rising. It's absolutely crazy right now, but this is definitely not the case. So looking at next steps and stuff, that'll be the first topic we're going to be digging into on this carrier update is just where's the rates going and what is this looking at for the second half of the year. Now, the second big topic, and we're kicking over to our next chart, is going to be rates. So spot line haul to contract spread. This is our second warning sign here. I've got it all the way back past before 2020, just to give you an idea of what happens when there is a big difference between spot market and contract rates. We're at a 91-cent difference, and so we're feeling the pressure. Something's got to give. And finally, the third chart here that we're going to talk about later on in the show is going to be used truck prices, because this is another thing that we've talked about. They're very expensive. I've got a 3-year, 4-year, and a 5-year here. And look, if you look at since 2010, we were hovering around like 50 to 70,000. Things seem normal, and then bam, look at this. We are literally into the stratosphere. So a lot to dig into today.
Yeah, I think that this chart right before this, that rates chart, that spread, it's really interesting because you brought it back past 2020, right? Or even earlier. If you look in 2020 when we saw that drastic just drop in spot rates when the pandemic set on, we're lower. That spread is wider now than it was then. That has to be concerning if you're one of those smaller carriers that's operating in the spot market, as opposed to those contracted rates that really haven't come down off their highs yet.
Well, that's what the spread says for the contract guys. When you see the spread like that and you're a contract person, you can't rest on your laurels. You can't assume that this will stay the same. Something is probably going to change, and the data is starting to show.
Awesome. Well, thank you for this update, Thomas. We'll be sure to check in with you again a little later. Right now, toss it over to Kaylee Nix with our first look at headlines.